The UFC White House card is literally less than 2 weeks away. And one thing I don't hear enough people talking about that really, really might affect a lot of these fights is the location. They're fighting at the White House. It's not just, oh, they're fighting at the White House. They're fighting outside in Washington, D.C. in the middle of June. For people who might not know because they're not from the area or they're not from America, Washington, D.C. is in what's called the American South. And one thing about the American South is that the summers are brutal. They are very hot, but also very humid. And the humidity is going to be what kills. You don't think that it being so hot and humid and outside could really affect everything? It's not going to cool off because it's nighttime. It's actually just really hot at nighttime, too. Like, how do I even describe it? It's going to negatively affect a lot of people's cardio because when they start sweating, their sweat won't cool them off. Their sweat will stick to them and make them even hotter, which is just going to negatively affect how hard you can push or when you can push, unless you're someone who's accustomed to doing physical activity in those conditions. And I don't think it's crazy to think that the extra heat and humidity, on top of the fact that they're in the South, like there's bugs everywhere, and those big hot lights are gonna make it feel that much hotter, and they're going to draw all kinds of bugs, gnats, no-see-ums, and all kinds of different mosquitoes. You gotta worry about that while fighting. I mean, imagine standing in front of Ilya and you gotta swat the no-see-ums out your face with Ilya in front of you, you know? And it's gonna make people start sweating way harder than what they're probably normally used to sweating, and it's gonna stick to them and make them feel hotter. I think we're gonna see a lot of really, really bad performances, and the less sophisticated, more sloppy, brawling kind of fighting styles are gonna be what takes over and what wins. Like, I don't think this is gonna negatively affect Diego Lopez versus Steve Garcia too much because Diego Lopez basically trains outside. I've seen how he trains. I'd be genuinely shocked if there was actually air conditioning in that gym. Bo Nickel and Kyle Dawkins, this really might affect a lot. Bo Nickel's wrestling might not be as effective if this makes it past the first round, which I think it will. And his wrestling is not as effective, and he can't use it as a threat because he can't get a hold of Kyle Dawkins because he's so slippery from being so sweaty and getting thrown off. And it just costs so much to wrestle. He's gonna have to scrap. And in a scrap, anything could happen. Kyle Dawkins might come on top. Chandler versus Huffy. Now this is the part where I didn't mention. Certain people's lifestyles are gonna be positive benefits for this environment. For the Brazilians who are fighting on the card, this is a buff. Guys like Mauricio Huffy and Alex Pereira are from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Much hotter than the American South ever does get because they actually live in a tropical climate. The American South is a subtropical climate. There's more water, more humidity, and much more heat in return because it gets more sunlight and more water. So, of course, Huffy and Pereira are used to much, much worse conditions. They'll be just fine. Michael Chandler lives and trains in South Florida, just above Miami. He'll be just fine in DC during the summer. This actually might feel like vacation for Mauricio Huffy. This might feel like vacation for Alex Pereira, and this might feel like vacation for Michael Chandler. Because however hot however hot Washington D.C. gets, where he trains, which is right outside of Miami, probably gets 10 degrees hotter, maybe even 15 degrees hotter, with much more humidity. And it rains way harder. So like Chandler's going to be used to the air, because I really mean the air in a literal sense. Like the air is quite literally thicker because there's just more moisture in the air. I know that Justin Gaethje's going to end up being just fine. His first few fights were outdoors, and while the humidity might get to him, the outdoor setting and the heat aren't going to get to him. The dude's from Arizona and constantly trains up in the mountains in Colorado. His cardio has always been amazing, and his body is going to be somewhat acclimated to this because he's used to fighting outside. He's used to being outside. He might not be used to this humidity, but he's definitely used to the heat. He'll be able to do this. Elias Superior is going to struggle with the heat and humidity, but because of his fighting style, the way he paces himself, and how he's just a lot more planted in his stance while he's swinging, I think he'll be just fine. But how does this affect the fight? I think it's going to make it become really, really scrappy. I don't think Ilya will be able to have a similar performance like he did against Josh Emmett. I think it's going to be closer to the Jai Herbert fight, where it's getting really, really scrappy. And I think Gaethje's going to drop Ilya at some point. Either he's going to catch Ilya while Ilya's taking a funny step and slips on the canvas, or or Ilya's going to take the shot and go down and then like try to recover. I think Gaethje will either really badly rock or straight up drop Ilya at one point in this fight. But Gaethje won't finish it because Gaethje, his follow up is actually kind of horrible. He's gonna hurt you, but his follow up shots, no. I think this is going to get really scrappy and turn into a fucking war, and that's when Ilya is gonna really pull ahead because in a war, in a scrap, in a pocket, Ilya is mixing in shots to the body, and that's gonna be what folds Justin over. But it's gonna be a fucking scrap until it happens, and I think it's simply because it's happening on the White House front lawn. Pereira versus Gon. I don't think that Gon's gonna be able to acclimate to this just fine. Like Pereira will be just fine. I think Pereira's gonna be the most Pereira we've ever seen him. I think Gon's gonna be look terrible. I think Gon's gonna look slow. I think Gon's gonna gas out. Cause all that little footwork shit and all that's fine. Lil bro, you live in France. You don't really leave France too much. There's no way in fuck he's gonna be ready for this level of heat and this level of humidity while he's fighting Pereira. And for Pereira, it's a vacation for him. He's used to the heat and humidity. He probably misses it. It's gonna remind him of home, and he's gonna go back to Brazil. But Cyril Gahn is a different kind of fighter. Cyril Gahn's a different kind of person. Cyril Gahn has spent most of his life in France. It is nowhere near as hot and humid in France as it is in Washington, D.C. I cannot stress enough. Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is quite literally a fucking swamp. It is a swamp. I literally mean like it was a swamp and then like partially got drained and they built a city on top of it. It is so much hotter, so much more humid than you can imagine. All kinds of bugs and insects are going to be everywhere. It's unavoidable. This is really gonna be a bad night for a lot of these guys. Guys like Cyril Gahn who have to move and use a lot of movement, when they start getting sweaty, when it starts getting harder to breathe, when your sweat starts sticking to you and you start getting hotter, that footwork's gonna look worse. It's just gonna eat up your cardio. A much more economical style, like Pereira, who's one moving forward always, never really taking backward steps, not bouncing around too much, only enough. I think a guy like that's gonna be just fine. Which leads me to my next fight, where yeah, I'm actually picking Amin Zahabi because of this. Because O'Malley needs the space and the footwork. And when it starts getting really, really hot and really, really humid, yeah, he does live and train in Arizona. I don't trust him to be able to keep that footwork and shit going. Where Amin Zahabi, even though he's much worse than Sean O'Malley, much worse than Sean O'Malley, is gonna be. I know what he's gonna look like. He's gonna be standing almost straight up and down, flicking the lead hand out there, trying to scrap, trying to brawl, and that's gonna give Sean O'Malley problems when he can't get his feet set, can't get his footwork going because it's so slippery. He can't like maintain balance. It's gonna really swing a fight like that. I don't think it's gonna matter in Josh Hokett versus Derek Lewis. If anything, it might make Derek Lewis quit even faster because Derek Lewis is from Houston, Texas, which is way, 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 way worse than Washington, D.C. when we're talking about heat and humidity. Houston, Texas is rough. It don't matter. He's still gonna lose to Hawkins. Plus, I'm pretty sure Hokett trains in Florida, if I remember correctly. So I think Josh will be just fine. But the extra heat, man, when them gnats and no seams start coming up and start biting him up, he ain't gonna want to be there. And do I think that Derek Lewis can take what Curtis Blades took in the first 30 seconds against Hokett? Hell no. Hell no. But this fight does scare me for Josh Hokett. Like, this is the kind of fight Derek Lewis randomly wins by knockout. Next up, I was talking about Huffy versus Chandler. The only funny business I see happening in this one, which is something that might happen in Gon's fight too, is that like Huffy might slip because of his like really weird footwork. But sometimes Huffy is more than willing to just stand, plant, and trade. And I can see him literally standing still, baiting Michael Chandler into doing something stupid and just knocking him out with like a fadeaway left hook or some shit. I think Chandler's gonna get knocked out brutally. But something I was gonna put out in the Gon fight is I could see same thing with Huffy and O'Malley, honestly, because they need so much footwork and movement for their styles. They can get so hot, so sweaty that anything could happen. And I'm just saying, if Cyril Gahn slips, expect either Alex Pereira to jump a guillotine or to throw a flying knee. And that completely depends on where they are in the fight. If it's past the halfway point in round two, expect a flying knee. If it's in the first 2 minutes of the first round, Pereira's jumping a guillotine. Like, Pereira will mix in grappling and will try to submit Cyril Gahn if Gahn does go out there and try to grapple. Because if he tries to wrestle Pereira, he's still gonna lose. It's just gonna be a little longer. He can hang on. And why do I feel so confident in Alex Pereira beating Cyril Gahn? Well, that's a different video for a different day. Until then, I'll catch you guys later. Thank you for staying around so long, and I'll see you later.